Press record. All right, so just a recap of some of the things we've been up to. So last month, over 60 folks joined us for Charlene Johnson's virtual seminar. It was really great. If you missed it, the link did go out in one of our previous newsletters. If you need us to send it to you, we can do that, but it was really great. How many of y'all saw it? Yeah, I learned a lot. Might want to watch it again. So she's our colleague from the Low Country chapter, and we were really glad that she could present here online and then join us for green drinks. So we had a great time at Buzz's Roost. We had some plant winners, and I hope your plants are still doing good. Great. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. You know, we cover Horry and Georgetown County, so we're trying to get you know, up and down the coast when we can. All right, so that's all the housekeeping I have. And now I would like to turn it over to Amy. And
Amy is going to introduce herself.
And you're going to introduce yourself. Great. All right. Oh, let me switch it. I can get it. Yeah.
So I'm Amy Hill. I started my career as a biologist back in the 1990s doing rare plant surveys for the state of Kentucky for a couple of years after I got my bachelor's degree. And then I moved on to invertebrates. I worked for the National Park Service for 10 years after I got my master's degree in stream ecology, and worked as stream ecologist for 10 years and working with freshwater invertebrates. And then I had kids and took off a couple of years, and I've been teaching ecology labs and biology labs at CCU for the past 15 years. And I know this is a native plant society, but I'm going to talk about insects. But at least I'm going to start off showing you, I think, is this a native plant? Can somebody tell me what this plant is? Is that Pycnanthemum? Maybe. I don't know. I think it's a native plant. But maybe we'll see some more during the talk. You're thinking what?
I was thinking NGM, but it's not great.
Oh, that might be it. Yeah. All right. So bumblebees are in the order Hymenoptera and related to wasps and honeybees. They feed on nectar and pollen. They live in social nests. They can sting. They don't like to sting. They're very reluctant to sting, and they wear furry coats. So they do like colder temperatures. The United States, they have a worldwide distribution. Maximum diversity, richness occurs in the Tibetan Plateau. In North America, United States, there are 46 species. Most of them are in the western montane regions, California, Oregon, Pacific Northwest, and some other areas. Southeast has 15 species. I don't know exactly how many South Carolina has, but around here, 5 species. Maybe a few other ones that nobody's really recorded creep in now and then, but it's pretty much 5 species in our area. And overall, bumblebee seem to be on the decline. So this is what bumblebee life cycle looks like. They only live 1 year. Females, new queens overwinter. They're the only individuals that overwinter. A mated female will build a hibernation cell, and she'll stay there all winter. And in the spring, she will emerge. So she'll start to collect pollen and nectar to feed, to build a nest, start laying eggs. As soon as the eggs start to hatch, she'll be producing daughter cells that'll take over foraging. And at that point, the queen stops going out. Later in the year, she'll also start to produce males and queens for the next year that are called gines. Depending on the species, it varies on the timing when this happens, but the Female workers will die. Males, as soon as they are born, they leave the nest and they never go back to the nest. The giants will stay at the nest for a while, but when the nest disassociates, breaks down, they'll leave, they'll mate. The males will die. The only things that overwinter are the females. She'll build that nest she overwinters in. So bumblebees are capable of learning. The main thing they learn to do is to get nectar and pollen out of flowers. And it can take a lot of resources, time, flower handling to learn to do that. So they show something called flower constancy, where once they're at a particular type of flower, they'll keep going to the same flower, the flowers of the same species for a while. So if you see one on one flower and you're looking for it, go to the same kind of flower to keep looking for them. This saves them energy, but it's also good for the flowers because it increases pollination if they're carrying pollen to the same plants. So Xerces Society is an insect conservation group, nonprofit, science-based. I think it was probably started in the 80s. I first became associated with them with the 90s when I was working with freshwater invertebrates. But they have, one of the things they're concerned about now are bumblebees. And they have listed 11 different species of concern. 2 of them occur here quite commonly. The one up here at the top is the American bumblebee, Bombus pennsylvanicus, and the one at the bottom is the Southern Plains bumblebee, Bombus fraternus. Some of the threats to bumblebees are, surprisingly, at least it was to me, are commercially reared bees for agriculture. Bumblebees are incredibly good pollinators, especially for some crops like things in nightshade, eggplant, tomatoes. So farmers will buy commercially reared nests, and sometimes they carry diseases, and those bees might escape the greenhouses, the fields, and spread them to natural populations, wild populations. But as with everything, habitat loss, fragmentation, pesticides, insecticides, climate change, all those things are affecting bee populations. So to verify or document declines, typically people haven't done a lot of population studies on insects to look at the numbers, or even sometimes even their distributions. There have not been very many people out looking for bumblebees in the Southeast. So to document distributions, changes, population numbers, not so much numbers, but distributions, Xerces Society has partnered with U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, North Carolina Wildlife Resources Commission, Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency, and Georgia Department of Natural Resources to start a Southeastern Bumblebee Atlas. There are other bumblebee atlases for other parts of the United States. I think California's had one going on for a while. Xerces has also started one for the Pacific Northwest. There's one somewhere in the Northeast, but this is the first year that they were doing one for the Southeast. And I became involved in them when Craig Sasser, the refuge manager for the Waccamaw National Wildlife Refuge, asked my husband, Chris Hill, if he would do bumblebee surveys because Xerces Society approached him. And Chris said he didn't have time, but if I would take the lead, he would help me. And I said, no, because they sting. And I hate getting stung. I hate it. So I found out that bumblebees are reluctant to sting. So I said I would think about it. And these are 2 areas that Xerces Society indicated they were particularly interested in having surveyed. The bottom left is Hasty Point, the smaller red circle, and the larger red circle is Sandy Island. And Craig also suggested maybe somewhere at Cox Ferry recreation area. Sandy Island logistics would be a little difficult, so I didn't really consider that one. I am not an expert on bumblebees. I did not know there was more than 1 species of bumblebee 6 months ago. Okay, all I did was say, okay, that's all I did. So I watched training videos. I watched the wrong training videos first, and then I watched the right training videos. So I got extra experience. I read survey manuals. I spent a lot of time just looking around my yard, catching bumblebees, practicing catching them, trying to identify them. I was wrong every single time at first. iNaturalist is amazing. I would take pictures and put them up there. And if I put the wrong ID on there, somebody would be so fast to come in and correct it. And that's really how I learned how to identify. So I scouted out areas, some that Craig suggested, some other areas around. I recruited, Chris already volunteered, and then Sudie Thomas said she was willing. So I was like, I don't have to do anything. I just have to get the stuff together. And they did all the work. Sudie would identify all the plants. Chris collected all the bees. I identified them. I haven't been stung yet. They're very reluctant to sting. Right, so these are the places that we did end up surveying. On the very bottom left is Hasty Point. We did do 2 surveys there. One survey was great. The other survey was a big fat 0. The next one was at a place called Bates Hill Road. There's a private plantation there that they have an agreement with the Natural Resource Conservation Service that Sudie Thomas used to work for, and she got permission to go out there. I did a couple of surveys up at Cox Ferry. Again, one of them was good. One of them got skunked. Number 4 is my house. I spent a lot of time at my house. Got a lot of bees. And number 5 was here, back by the intramural fields. Number 6 is out at Lewis Ocean Bay, the Orange Square. This was an official training day led by Lori Heyman from the Xerces Society. She is the regional bumblebee coordinator for the Southeast. And then number 7 is Myrtle Beach State Park. So Scott Hartley and Ann Wilson have done at least 1, maybe 2 surveys out there. So how did we catch the bees? This is one of the steps in catching the bees. So the picture shows the minimum amount of equipment you need. You need a net and something to put the bees in. You need a cooler with ice for chilling the bees, data sheets, survey manual. So for these point surveys, which are the kind of surveys I did, it's approximately 1 hectare. If you bring Chris Hill along, it's exactly 1 hectare because he was very conscientious about measuring and I was not. 45 active person minutes. So if there were 3 of us, 15 minutes each. And by active minutes, it means if you start a timer, you catch a bee, as soon as you have a bee in a net, you stop the timer. You put it in a vial and then put that on ice. And once you're ready to catch again, you start the timer again. So they sit on ice until your survey is over. And that really chills them out. They almost look dead when you can handle them, photograph them. So you photograph each bee, record the flower host. You let them sit out for about 5 minutes, they warm up, and then they'll fly away. And then all that data gets uploaded into bumblebeewatch.org, and somebody from Xerces Society verifies. You don't have to identify them. You can just say it's a bumblebee, and they'll identify for you. And if you look at their webpage, you'll see that there are a lot of not a bumblebee. So people post, because there are a lot of things that look like bumblebees that are not bumblebees, but they'll go through and check them. So this is what we looked like afterwards. I like to be comfortable, so I would bring a table and chairs and a fan because it is hot. Yeah. Bumblebees aren't really active early in the morning. I don't know why. They like it cooler, but I guess they have to wake up. Maybe it's the moisture. So we would usually start the surveys at 9 o'clock, and by the time we were finished, it would be pretty hot. But you take pictures in 3 different aspects. I record what flowers they were on. This one on the left is out at Hasty Point, and the one on the right was at Cox Ferry. When Sudie and I did it, and Sudie picked up a dog while we were out there. She was kind of cute. And this is Becky Ryan was with me on this one, and Trapper and Sudie. Trapper, can't remember Trapper's last name. Anyway.
Fowler.
What?
Trapper Fowler.
Yeah, Trapper Fowler. And this was the one back just behind us, by the intramural fields. And this is what they look like when they're all chilled, sitting there waiting to have their pictures taken. Look, he's sticking his tongue out at us, or she. So the one on the left over here, this one is called an American bumblebee, Bombus pennsylvanicus. No, it's not. That is Southern Plains bumblebee, Bombus fraternus. The one in the middle is the American bumblebee, Bombus pennsylvanicus. And this one on sweet pepper bush flower is common eastern bumblebee. And apparently if you leave the flower in the tube when they get chilled and they're still trying to get stuff out of the flower, their tongue is sticking out when they get chilled. So I think that's why its tongue is sticking out. Yes. So this is one field guide I would bring along. So this is Southern Plains bumblebee, and right here over on the right side in the middle, there's the actual bumblebee sitting there. So we're matching them up, trying to make sure we have the identifications right. But they've also got these phenology charts in here that show the activity for that particular species and when you would expect to find different members of the nest. So for this particular species, queens are out from April through, I don't know where because I have that cut off, but I'm guessing it probably says November. Workers usually disappear in September in the males. So out here, just the gines, the bees that are going to be the queens for the next year. So they've already made it. They're looking for nest sites. And that varies quite a bit by species. This was the field day out at Lewis Ocean Bay. So there were 8 of us, 7 people plus Lori Heyman that met out there. And when we first got there, we went to this field that had a bunch of different flowers, these orchids, all these beautiful flowers. We spent, I think, an hour with 8 of us searching. We found 1 bumblebee. And Lori said, let's keep on trying. This is a training. We need to find some bees. So Scott and Ann walked down the road maybe 50 feet and found this patch of sweet pepper bush. And there were bumblebees all over it. So we spent about another 15 minutes capturing. And I think we came up with 20 bumblebees in that time. So I've learned this lesson a few times. If you go somewhere looking for them and they aren't there, they're not going to, it's not because you don't see them, they're there and you don't see them. They're not there. You need to move on. The first survey we did, and we went to Hasty Point, and it was me and Chris and Sudie. I caught 1 bumblebee. Sudie caught 2. Chris caught 17 because he wasn't near us. He kept walking and found them. So if you do these surveys, if you don't see them, that they're not, go someplace else. Because they move, you know, they might just be on the next patch of flowers.
And they're together.
It seems like it. Yeah. All right, and this is a group picture out at Lewis Ocean Bay. It was fun. It was hot. I sweated through my shirt like I always do when I go out to do bumblebee surveys. All right, so this is what it looked like. These were our results from the surveys that have happened that I have been involved in. Okay, so 5 species, total of 78 bumblebees that have been captured. Most common was Southern Plains bumblebee, 48 total, present at every site that I sampled. It's listed as one of the species of most concern. Hasty Point and Lewis Ocean Bay had the most. Mine was right up there, but that's because I'm at my house all the time looking. And these are the 5 species that we found. Top left corner is the Southern Plains bumblebee. Below that is Bombus bimaculatus, 2-spotted bumblebee. It's got these things, you know, they kind of look like 2 spots. At the bottom is American bumblebee. Top middle is brown belted. You can maybe guess why it's called brown belted. I'll get to more details in a minute. And the one top right is common eastern bumblebee. All right, so Southern Plains bumblebee. It's relatively large compared to those other, sometimes quite large compared to those other 4 species. There's this elliptical thorax patch. The thorax patch is the black area between the wings on the thorax. Abdominal tergites 1 and 2 are completely yellow. Tergites it's the dorsal side of the abdominal segment. So little insect morphology. Head, Next body segment is the thorax. Behind the thorax, there are 7 abdominal segments on males, 6 abdominal segments on females, with that last segment modified into the stinger. For some reason, bumblebee people call these dorsal abdominal segments tergites, and they abbreviate it as T with the number of the abdominal segment. So, this is T1, this is T2. For Southern Plains bumblebee, yellow does not extend beyond T2. Occasionally, there might be a couple of yellow hairs at the sides of T3, but it's pretty much restricted to T1 and T2. The species is declining across its range. It's listed as at risk by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and it's under consideration for listing, for review for Endangered Species Act listing. It is the most common, most abundant species that I found in Horry and Georgetown counties. American bumblebee, black. There's usually some black on abdominal T1, yellow on T2, T3, sometimes T4, T5. There's a black gap sometimes between up here on behind the head and where the yellow starts on the abdomen. Again, that's variable. Sometimes it's yellow right behind the wings as well as in front of the wings. Those colors are really, it's quite variable in a lot of the species. It's also a species of concern, disappearing mostly from the northern range of a previous range. And it's also a candidate for endangered species listing. Common eastern bumblebee is the most common bumblebee out right now. It's relatively small compared to those other two. The most distinguishing characteristic for this is there is no yellow beyond T1. I did a mark recapture exercise with my ecology labs last week. And we estimated that around the Prince building and Singleton building, if you know campus, there are 300, we estimated 300, it says 359 because I couldn't remember the number when I was making this up. It's actually 390 individuals around those buildings. So it's kind of fun to do. This is what a marked bumblebee looked like. I got a paint pen that bumblebee, honeybee keepers use to mark their queens. It's a non-toxic water-based paint pen. I assume that if it rains, it washes that mark off. I'm not positive, but I was a little worried it was going to rain between marking and recapturing, but it didn't. All right, two-spotted bumblebee has a yellow vertex. The vertex is the backside of the head. I put long uneven yellow hairs up there, but because I keep reading it in the description, I look at that, I'm like, they all look like that. I don't know what that means. But there is yellow on T1, those two spots on T2. Sometimes all of T2 is yellow. It's not just those two spots. Sometimes it looks like a W, sometimes it looks like two spots, sometimes it's continuous. This is an early species. The nests disassociate, the workers and males die early compared to the other species. They were really common in May. By the time I started doing the surveys, I've only seen one since then. I found one in my yard since May, and otherwise I haven't seen any. And that's normal. It's not just me or here. That I think that's true other places too. And lastly is the brown belted bumblebee, Bombus griseacalis. I don't care how you pronounce it, but it's got this brown belt on the T2, on the dorsal second abdominal segment. And this is from the book I've been using to try to identify these bumblebees. All of these on the left, all 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, I don't know, 15 of them. They're all color variations of the same species. Same for the right. It was making me crazy. I was just like, I spent 10 years identifying insects, hundreds and hundreds of insects, and I cannot identify these 5 species. So it is hard. It can be really hard. even for experts, it can be hard. Microscopic characteristics are reliable. If you really want to identify them, I think you have to catch them and put them under a microscope and learn those features. And then, it's harder. People are queasy about killing animals, insects, but if you really want to be sure what you've got, I think it's the most reliable way. But catching bumblebees is fun. It is really fun. My class had so much fun doing it. Anybody can do these bumblebee surveys. It's a volunteer, no experience necessary kind of survey. Right now, you can go out and create an account on bumblebeewatch.org, and you can take a picture and submit it, and somebody will identify it for you. Or you can try to identify it, and they'll correct it for you. You can also adopt a grid cell, and that's when you're doing these point surveys, the states are divided up into a grid and they have numbers, and you adopt a certain grid cell. And the expectation is that you do 2 surveys within that grid cell during the sampling period. And more, I've adopted this area and the one down where Hasty Point is. Somebody else can too. It's not limited to one person. I think might be 2 people, maybe 4 different people can adopt a single grid cell. They have in-person training seminar, activity, field days where you can go out and learn to do it. There are also online videos. I suggest watching the correct one at least once, even if you're going to watch the wrong ones. The wrong ones are really helpful too, though. If you want to be a good steward for bumblebees, provide flowers. I don't know, bumblebees are generalists. I know this is the Native Plant Society, but they don't care. They just want food. They'll just as readily go on cultivated flowers if they're a good source of pollen and nectar. But I suggest you plant native flowers, native plants. But it's especially important in the fall and the spring, because that is when in the fall, the giants, the queens, the ones that are going to be queens next year, they need fat reserves to overwinter. And so when a lot of flowers are dying out, they need resources. So planting flowers that are available at the ends of the season, again in the spring, because they've got to make a nest, start laying eggs. They're all alone, so they also need a good food source. Leaving places for them to nest. Nesting habitat for them, they like old rodent holes. Messy vegetation like the base of bunch grasses. Mulch piles, leaf piles. They'll use tree cavities, old bird nest boxes. So places like that for nest sites. I would like to thank my field. I was hoping my field crew, my field crew isn't here, but except for Chris. Thank you, Chris. Sudie Thomas, Chepper Fowler, Becky Ryan, they all were great help. I would not have done it without them. So thank you. And thank you all for coming and listening to me talk about insects. Yeah.
How many eggs do they normally lay?
So they're, depending on the species and what kind of resources they have around, will be between 50 and 500 individuals in a nest.
It's a big variance.
Yeah. And I'm sure I don't know much more about it than that. Yeah.
When you put them in, when you're showing that slide about how you like put them on the ice, how long do you put them on ice for until you start handling them?
That sometimes was a problem. We would take them out and be
You're
like,
like, no,
oh, get back in there.
Yeah.
If you have like ice that's real liquidy and they're down in that really well, it might take 10 minutes to chill them.
Okay.
Sometimes it took longer, especially I was buying bag ice from, at the store, and it was so cold. It took a while for it to melt. And they, if there was water in there, it would make them colder faster because, the tube would be in water to conduct the heat away faster. So 10 to 20 minutes. I think if you had it set up well, it'd be 10 minutes. And you could probably, the Xerces people said, you're safe leaving them in there for an hour or so, and then they said, don't tell anybody this, but I know people who've left them in the ice overnight and they were still okay the next day, but it'll eventually kill them. I mean, if you put
Right,
them in
yeah,
your
yeah.
freezer, it's gonna kill them. So it's not like they can tolerate anything. They are sensitive to really cold, but they can tolerate kind of cold.
I'm sure you said it earlier, maybe I missed it, but when's the survey period?
I did not say that because I can't, it's through the end of September. I think it's like June 15th to the end of September. We're gonna try to do one more survey out at Bates Hill, I think, but it's pretty much over. Yeah, there are a lot of still a common Eastern out, but I haven't seen much of anything else.
Can you explain more about why you were marking that? Like what were you tracking or-
One way to try to estimate the population size of things is to a mark recapture study. So you go out one capture period, you catch all you can and you mark them. And then you go back out and you catch a whole bunch again, and you look at how many are marked compared to how many are not marked. And you can use ratios of the number you captured the first time to the total population. It should be equivalent to the number you recapture over the total number you capture that second time. I mean, there's more to it than that. You have to meet a bunch of criteria. But if you meet those criteria, then you can use those proportions to estimate the population size.
How big compared to like this room for people who don't know Princeton, how big was the area in which you estimated 390 bumblebees?
Compared to this room,
Or compared to whatever, how big was the area that number of bees was in?
I don't know. I don't know. You know the area. What do you think?
I don't know which flower beds you sampled.
I don't know where the students went. I wasn't following them, but we were mostly right in front of the Singleton building. So hectare. I would say 2 hectares. And that probably doesn't help some people because I don't know before these
It's a
surveys.
small area though, right?
Yeah, it's not a huge area.
I don't think it's an acre. I doubt it. I don't, but I don't know.
I thought it was an acre.
Okay.
I think that entire area might be an acre. Yeah.
What's a hectare?
100 square meters. Is that right? No.
One hectare is just shy of 2.5 acres.
How many?
It's a square meters on the side.
That's what I meant.
Couple of football fields.
That's- I'm not an expert on anything. I told you guys that, right?
An acre is 3,560 square. I do. Realtor.
Oh, and males, when they don't go back to the nest, this is what they do. They sleep. They just go to sleep on a flower. You're gonna look inside a flower and see a sleeping male. It's really
I
cute.
just read they don't sting the males.
They don't have stingers.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Is that true for all wasps? Can no male wasps sting?
Yeah, that's true. So modified ovipositor, so no male of any wasp species. So if you're really confident in your insect ID, take that paper wasp right up off the flower. You gotta be sure.
All right, well, thank you all.
Thank you. Allison in the chat said, great bumblebee talk. I agree. I'm gonna go just rogue and start capturing some outside. No, bumblebeewatch.org. Was that right? Bumblebee.org?
Yeah, and if you want to learn how to catch them, there are a couple of really good videos to show you how to use your net to catch them and how to get them from the net into the tube. It's nice to watch somebody do it. There are a couple of good ones.
Would that work with any bee? I mean, I'm thinking of my grandson. We might not do bumblebees, but we might try to catch something out there. Can you put it, other kind of things on ice
Yeah,
and then let the kids examine it?
but they might sting. They might be more likely to sting you than bumblebees. That's the only thing.
Yeah.
As long as you can get them into the tube without stinging, once they're on ice and chilled, they're fine.
Recently, I'm pulling off some dead flowers, so I have I didn't know those infection on the bumblebee.
Which they bumble.
And it really
That's
bumblebees.
It's
And then
bumblebee.
I've heard growing up that when bumblebee stings you and then it dies. It's not true.
They don't have those barbs, but like honeybees, they lose their stinger when they
Yeah, they
fly
do.
away from you. A lot of times their stinger gets stuck in your skin because they've got reverse barbs that prevent the stinger from coming out. Bumblebees don't have those, or if they do, they're very small.
I've been stung by
So
them twice.
But barb.
The same spot.
Like the bumblebee, then, honeybee, then it would die, that stinger is pulled out.
There, but at the end of the therapy gets pulled off. Yeah. But it's not. Some the yellow jackets, that's how they can sting you over and over again.
Yes, do I know that?
And Chris, I think you held up that book. Is that a good resource?
Bumblebees of North America. It's got really great pictures of all the different species in North America. I think iNaturalist is better for identifying them, if that's your goal. But this will help too. And it'll teach you that you can force 90% of all the species into the 5 species that you know.
All right. Well, thank you. Oh,
Across the United States, how many different bumblebees are there?
46 bumblebee species in the United States.
I can't.
all right. Well, thank you again, Amy. Great.
Thank you.
All right. Now it's time for Plan of the Month. We need like an intro or something, but Plan of the Month. Woo!
All right, I think most of you know me at this point, but just in case, I'm Tierney Rosenstock. I'm the vice president of our chapter, and I'm also Plan of the Month czar. Yay! And I'm super excited about this month's Plant of the Month. I actually just got introduced to it by Erin, another steering committee member, just a couple of weeks ago, and I fell in love with it. So I just wanted to share it with everybody. So Plant of the Month is Lespedeza virginica. Common names include slender bush clover and Virginia bush clover. The scientific name just means Virginia. Probably because whoever discovered this plant described it there. That's usually why plants will have a location name. It doesn't mean that that's the only place it grows, because obviously it grows here in South Carolina. Slender bush clover is in the legume family, Fabaceae. So it's related to like sweet peas and other plants like that. It is a nitrogen fixer like so many other legumes. So it actually helps add nitrogen to poor soils. It is a deciduous semi-woody perennial. So it's got a little bit of a shrubby habit, but it's still considered a perennial. It grows about maybe 2 to 3 feet high and about the same width wide. It really likes sun. Where I saw it growing on Erin's property, it was in a power line easement where it got sun from sun up until sun down. So it can take South Carolina hot sun all day long. It likes well-drained sandy soils. Again, where we saw it growing, it was almost exclusively sand, at least in the very top layer of the soil there. This is one that does not like wet feet. I know that we have a mix of both here in the county. You either have too wet of soil or too dry of soil. It's like nothing in between. But this is a good one for a hot, sunny, dry site. As you can see, it has a pretty decent distribution. It grows in the southeast all the way down to the panhandle of Florida, but not into South Florida. Grows all the way up into the very southern part of Vermont, all the way over to Iowa and eastern Texas. And within our state, it grows basically in every county. So you can find it from the coast all the way up to the mountains.
Except for Marion County.
Except for Marion County, apparently. These maps are from BONAP, which is a really great source for determining whether a plant is native or not, with the caveat that a lot of these maps are only up to date to about 2014, and there has been some research done, so some of them have been updated or need to be updated. But this one's a good source if you're trying to figure out if something's native or not. I usually just Google the genus and the word BONAP, and then a list will come up. And that I always go to that one when I'm wondering if something's native or not. So the flowers are small, they're less than an inch wide, but they're so cute. I just love this pink color with this darker pink blush. And what they lack in size, they make up for in clustering together. So the ends of the branches all have might have hundreds of these little flowers. So they do tend to be showy, even though those flowers individually are very small. They flower on new growth each year. So one way to get more flowers would be to cut them back in the winter, and then they'll flush out in the spring and you'll get more flowers. You should take all those cuttings and put them in a pile so that the bumblebees have a place to nest.
Did you say they're fragrant?
They're not fragrant. Do you notice whether they, I don't think they smell like anything. But they've got that classic pea flower shape, yeah. So these are the fruits on the on your left and my right, and then the seeds on the opposite side. They're quite small, as you can see. That's a dime in the center there. I was looking up, as I was looking these up, I did realize that, that I didn't immediately see any nurseries that carry these plants, but the seeds are relatively easy to germinate. They need scarification, which just means you take some sandpaper and rub them together lightly, and then they need a cold moist stratification for only 10 days. A lot of our natives need 30, 60, 90 days of cold moist stratification, so this is way shorter than a lot of our other plants. And I did see seeds available on Prairie Moon Nursery just on a very quick search. So it is possible to grow them at home, and maybe some of the nurseries carry them with a little more research. These are the leaves. They're alternate along the stems, so that means that two leaves aren't right across from each other, they're staggered. And they're trifoliate, which just means that there's 3 different parts on each leaf, which is also sort of typical of plants in the pea family. They're very beneficial to our native insects, long-tongued bees, as well as numerous other bee species, including our 5 bumblebee species, will visit these flowers, as well as butterflies, and they are the host plant for at least these 3 species. These are the ones that I could find direct information of. I just love this eastern-tailed blue. They're just the blue one is the male, and the gray one is the female, and they're just absolutely stunning. Once it goes to seed, the seeds are eaten by a number of different songbirds. Also northern bobwhites will feed on them, and mammals as well, small mammals. And I think that's all I got. Yep. So this one's not widely available, but so there aren't any cultivars. But when I saw it, I just absolutely fell in love with it and I wanted to share it with y'all.
Since they need a cold period to germinate,
Mhm.
would you wait until winter for scarification?
Yeah, so you have to do the scarification before the cold treatment. So you can either just rub them with the sandpaper and then direct sow them into the ground in the fall, in October-ish,
Right.
November. Or you can mix them with some moist, not super wet sand and put them in your fridge for 10 days. And then you could germinate them.
How do they get scarred in nature?
Probably just mechanical damage. So like when the seeds fall off the plant and they're in that really sandy soil and rain hits and stuff, when you're this big, those little grains of sand can really, make some damage on them. Yeah, that's my best guess anyway. Yeah, yeah.
Being stepped on by animals.
Yeah, chewed on, pooped out. Anybody else? No? Hey, keep an eye out for this one. Thank you, thank you. Welcome. All right, I'll just take over from here and tell you about some upcoming events that we have. We're really excited. Well, we are excited about other things, but we're sad about this. We did have a field trip scheduled for this Saturday in conjunction with River Day, but due to oncoming weather and the current trail conditions as they are, they've decided to reschedule it. So we'll keep you posted. It will happen, just not this Saturday. Brook Green Gardens is having their fall plant sale this Saturday. They will have a selection of native plants, which is on their availability list on the event website. And we will be there. I will be there as an exhibitor, just having an outreach table. And I would love a partner. If anybody wants to come, you will get in with me and also get access to plant sale early. So if anybody.
Free if you're cheering his friend for plant sale, otherwise you have to pay garden admission, so.
Yes, you can get in for free if you come with me. I have to be there at 8:30 in the morning and goes until about 2, right? Yeah. So, and it is calling for rain, but I have a pop-up canopy. So, and it even has walls if it gets really windy. So if anybody is interested in coming and hanging out with me and getting first access to Brook Green Garden plant sale, let me know.
Is it all native?
No, there is a selection of native plants.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I've got my eye on some of those mountain mints. And we have a native plant market coming up. So yay. So one of the reasons we started this chapter was we really wanted to help people in this area get access to native plants because a lot of the nurseries are in Charleston or Columbia or up in North Carolina, and there's just not a lot of availability here. So we decided to host native plant growers at a market here. So we have 8 vendors coming. And we will also have Catherine Watts of Clemson Extension taking soil samples. If you want to have your soil tested, it's $6 cash or check. And we will be holding this event on Saturday, October 7th from 9 to 1 p.m. I think everyone raised their hands when we asked about membership, but the members of Native Plant Society will get first access to the native plant market from 9 a.m. to 9:30. So get that membership so you can come get those plants nice and early. And if anybody wants to help out, lend a hand, let us know. We could always use more hands, and you will also get first access if you volunteer. Go ahead.
I forgot to put a note on here, but we would like you to stop recycling. and we want you your box. So we want, if you're coming, sorry, if you're coming to the plant sale and you have some boxes, we think those would be useful for folks who are carrying plants back to their car. So we're looking for big sturdy boxes. We don't want your tiny Amazon boxes. We want like your, I don't know, big box, your dog's food from Chewy or something like that. So you can bring those day of. Yeah. Or if you want to raid the liquor store, that's fine too, but we want some boxes. We'll send a reminder.
Yeah, and you know, you could bring your own boxes day of, like, as she said, or if you have a wagon, those are, you know, I've seen those at other plant sales, people bring wagons and truck their plants around that way, so yeah.
Makes it easier.
Yes, it does. Oh, and that'll be on the town green, if I didn't mention that, in Conway.
Where's that at?
That, do you know where the farmer's market is? It's, yeah.
It's by Copper's thing.
Yes, it's right across the street from Copper's, yes. And they put up a 15-foot skeleton in the town green, so it's gonna be a spooky plant sale. I think I mentioned this at our last meeting, the SCNPS annual meeting has been scheduled. That is Saturday, November 4th at Saluda Shoals Park in Columbia, South Carolina. This is a really great opportunity to meet people from other chapters and learn about things that are happening around the state. This year we will be hosting a vote for new officers for the state. You know, the president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer are all coming up for re-election, or not re-election, but electing new people. And if you are a member, you should have gotten an email with the nominations for this year. And then a ballot will be going out. And so that is an important part of engagement, is being able to vote. There will be absentee ballots, but come and vote in person. It's gonna be a fun time.
And we want you to vote yes on Tierney as state treasurer. Yeah.
Yay!
Wait, how do you run it?
Yeah, so they should have sent out an email with the bios for all of the people, and yes, I threw my name in the hat for state treasurer, so here we go. Our next chapter meeting is Thursday, November 16th. And we're going to try something a little bit different for what we're gonna call the holiday meeting. We are actually going to do, what we're hoping to do is get members to do presentations. So 5 to 10 minute presentations on anything that you are excited about that is related to native plants. So that could be a particular species, or that could be, you know, your experience making jelly from beautyberry, or anything along those lines. Anything else you guys want?
Your first experience doing a bumblebee survey, maybe? It doesn't have to be super informal. Anything you're passionate about, you can just bring a plant from your garden. If we don't have anyone sign up, and we'll send sort of an official form later, but if you don't have anyone signed up, we probably won't do it. It's gonna be a very short, sad meeting. So if you're interested, if you think of anything, let us know and we'll help you. Like, if you don't have to have a PowerPoint or anything, you can do it, you know, analog. So yeah, we want this to be a chance for you to share what you know with the other members. So.
Yeah, we thought this could be sort of a like Victoria said, a more casual meeting too, where, you know, there's a bit more time for networking and everybody brings a snack, and, you know, we can learn from each other and hang out and just have a good time before we enter into the crazy holiday season. So more info to come on that, including a sign up form for all of you who are so excited to come and do a presentation. And with that, we'll switch over to member updates. So if y'all have anything you want to share, and I see a hand up already.
So Brooklyn Gardens, we're currently hiring for a horticulturist and also for a gardener. So they're full time. So if you want to be at Brook Green not just one day, once in a while, but 37.5 hours a week. We would love to have you. You can apply on Indeed. There's longer descriptions of the jobs on Indeed as well.
Great.
Or you can ask me.
Mike,
So, I've got a situation I could use some help with. I've been contacted by one of our local schools, Coastal Montessori, who want to bring groups of students out to the park several times for community service projects, and each time it'd be a different project. So I've already got them lined up to do like a shorebird conservation project with Waccamaw Audubon. And would love to do something with native plants or maybe trying to control invasive plant species. But I'm trying to think of an idea that will work with any 20 to maybe up to 45 5th to 8th graders. And I have a couple figuring something out. So if you have any ideas or be interested in helping with this project, please let me know. Unfortunately, being a Montessori school, they have their schedule is fairly wide open as when we can do this. The only date I've got scheduled is the shorebird one. That's like the end of February. But you know, it's a little problematic in working with kids. You know, obviously we can't use herbicides. I'm just looking for some clever ideas, something that might work. So if anyone has any ideas, please let me know.
Sounds like a good project for an education committee.
anybody else?
And I guess I should probably present this to the steering committee, but I just thought about it. At a Lower Winyah Bay Coalition meeting I was at recently, some government official from Pawleys Island, city of Pawleys Island, well, it's not city, it's in Georgetown, but he's with Pawleys Island. He brought up a need for some survey efforts and maybe eradication teams for beach vitex, which is evidently undergoing a bit of a resurgence on some of the properties around Pawleys. So that was a request that he put out to potentially our chapter to help with, maybe. So just putting that out there.
Yeah.
Erin, we can chat more about that because I talked to Mike a little bit about that.
Okay.
Because it's near the state park as well, like in North Litchfield.
Okay.
These dang invasives. They just keep popping back up. Resist
What do they look like, those? Vitex?
the
Like
beach
Is
vitex.
that like the one looking butterfly bush? kind of?
No,
It's honestly really pretty.
yeah, it is actually very pretty. It has rounded leaves and these like blue violet flowers on the ends. Yeah,
Because there's a vitex that they sell.
that is also not native, but not the same. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
not
it's
the
not
same.
like that.
Yeah,
I've never seen that.
yeah, the vitex you're thinking of is more of a large shrub, and it gets flowers on it that look like a butterfly bush, also not native. And is sort of like the southern version of a lilac in a way, because it grows more like a bush, but no, this is, I don't think it's even, is it in the same genus?
That book.
Yeah, I think it's just one of those common name misnomers, but. Very pretty, very invasive, not cool for our dune systems.
Yeah, so it's been sometimes called the kudzu of the coast.
Oh.
And we've had a couple plants pop up in the park the last few years that I was able to manually remove, but it outcompetes all the native vegetation, the coyotes and things like that, and turtles cannot nest in. So it destroys sea turtle nesting habitat at the same time.
Right.
And not something we want getting reestablished again.
What's a removal like? I mean, is it, you can dig it up and,
So the last two plants I've dealt with actually came up in our shorebird nesting area. right between the road area and the electric fence, while I had a big colony of least terns nesting. So that was very problematic because I couldn't really get in there without them dive bombing me and them getting off their nest. So I just had to kind of work on it a piece at a time. I think this was the summer of COVID too, so
Oh,
getting outside help was not practical. And I didn't want to use herbicides because of the birds. So I just kind of picked away at it as the birds would allow, and eventually Doug was able to dig all the roots and never came back.
is it one of those things where if you just pull it by the roots, it,
If it's small enough, you can pull it out, but it has a pretty intense root system. I had to do a lot of digging to get it out. Now, I know there's some other folks who have been treated with herbicides. There are other ways to deal with it, but my situation was kind of unique, having to deal with the currents.
gotcha. Okay. You got
Okay.
something, Victoria?
No, I was just gonna recap, if we're all, I think we're all listening.
Yep, we're done.
So to recap, if you're interested in helping us with education, you're gonna talk to, Maeve. If you wanna get up early and help us with the native plant market, you're gonna talk to Tierney. But all of us have homework, we have a bunch of flyers, if you would take a couple on your way out and leave them in your car and then put them somewhere. So put them in your favorite coffee shop, doctor's office, Babs and some of the folks who are with our native plant market committee have already done a good job flyering places. And we want you to do the same thing, so feel free to take a bunch of these. And then remember your other homework is to stop recycling, and bring us those cardboard boxes. But
Just the boxes, not the trash.
Yeah, that's the boxes.
no one bottles.
If it looks like something that'd be good to carry a bunch of plants in, bring it to us, please.
Bring it to us, the native plant, the day of at the market, or can you drop it off here? We could. Okay.
And that's all we got for you this evening. Feel free to hang out. We've got the room for a little bit longer and just chat, ask Amy more questions or any of us or each other or whatever you want to do.
Figure it out. It's so quick. No, not me.
That's not it.
I don't have questions.
It's probably hydrology. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, yeah, but I think. What we're probably gonna do is create a sign sheet with jobs. And then we'll just- Jobs we share.